Hello everyone, Kino Jack is on the phone to talk with you this morning. I'll tell you what I know about the initial and subsequent seasons from the 11th season Walking Dead series for a greater understanding of what's going on. I suggest you look at the retelling of the first series by clicking the links in the description. Darryl, Maggie, and several other Alexandrians are preparing to deploy at an army base. They open a trapdoor inside the ground. Maggie guides an uninvolved group of people to the hangar for helicopters. The room is filled with walkers who lie still in the dirt. They slyly evade the walkers. Magna smashes the door's lock and the group strolls through the hallway. They come across a crate of Marie and put it in their backpacks. Maggie, Carol, and Rosita load their backpacks onto the pulley system. Darryl and Alden raise their backpacks. Their pulley snapped. Daryl takes the backpack away before he falls on the walkers, but he slashes his hand. Drops of blood drop onto the walking. The walker is agitated, waking the other walkers inside the room. Maggie's group begins taking walkers to the grave. Darryl and Alden take the group up one by one. The group then returns back to Alexandria. Darryl and Alden hug Judith while R.J. Herschel hugs Maggie together with Cole Duncan and Agatha, members of Maggie's former community who have made it to Alexandria. In search of her home, Gabriel is able to break up a fight between two people who are arguing over food and rations. Gabriel organizes an emergency meeting and announces that there's only enough food available in Alexandria for 1 week. Maggie proposes to replenish the supplies by reuniting her community Meridian that was taken by a group who destroyed the majority of the residents. Darryl and Gabriel offer to go along with her. Maggie guides the group through Washington, D.C. en route to Meridian, who is engulfed in a severe storm. They decide to shelter at the subway station. Maggie's group goes underground. Darryl suggests they take a trip through the tunnels in the subway. Negan is not convinced. However, Maggie asks him to give them the fastest way to Meridian. Since he's the most knowledgeable about this district of Columbia, they take off on the tracks. The group is going through the tunnel of the subway. They can hear the pipes grumbling due to the raging storm. Negan refers to an inscription on the wall that indicates the tunnels are often submerged. He suggests that they go back to the beginning, but Darryl isn't convinced. Eugene, Ezekiel, Yuka, and the princess are thrown into an army camp manned by paramilitary forces. In the room for interrogation, a woman and a man addressed Eugene to be Commonwealth auditors. They interrogate him for many hours, as do Wiki, Yuma, and the princess. Ezekiel interrupts the conversation and is able to guess that the paratrooper in the background watching him was actually the one in the charge. He coughs up uncontrollably. The paratrooper Mercer hands him an ice-cold glass and a group of Zeki, or even eats with them in the detention facility. Yuka, the Princess Yuka along with Ayel all agree they should attempt to get out. However, Eugene says that the Commonwealth could help Alexandria. The princess asks a few of the prisoners for how the length of time they've been in prison. One prisoner says that he doesn't recall anything because of the processing, and the prisoners then go silent. The paratroopers whisk the prisoner to take his body for recycling. Eugene decides to reconsider his position and decides that they have to get out of the tunnel under the subway. Maggie's group comes across the bodies of a number of people, each covered in plastic. Darryl takes the plastic off one of his bodies and kills the walker. After he snapped his jaw, the group notice that he didn't make any sound since his throat has been slit. Maggie demands that the group take out all walkers and kill them so that they can continue their path. Maggie's group kills all walkers with a knife, the massive walker, and then silently attacks Guy Negan, who kills the walker and then refuses to continue, calling Maggie's plan a death march. Gates. Shira agrees with Negan. However, Maggie is insistent that Negan should remain in their midst to assist them through the DC. Negan believes that Maggie carried him away with her to take him to death. Maggie admits that she often is thinking about the murder of Negan and isn't certain what her self-control will last. Eugene's group is discussing the possibility of escape. The princess looks at their guards attentively and ponders the little aspects that nobody else was aware of. She claims that the two men frequently disappear for a half hour for an affair. They devise a plan of escape during this time. Yuka and Eugene don their military uniforms and lead Princess and Ezekiel through the corridor. The paratrooper inquires about where they're going. Yuka declares that they're processing prisoners. The security guards release the prisoners. They leave the premises and proceed to the wall, which is covered in photographs of prisoners. The princess is able to recognize Yuka on one of these photographs. Yuka notices that the picture comes with a letter from her brother requesting who has seen Yuka. She is aware that her brother is inside this complex, and she decides she has to stay in the complex and locate him. Maggie's group discovers the fact that Gage as well as Roy have managed to escape and have taken all their belongings. A group of walkers is seen further into the tunnel. They begin killing walkers and search for an escape way. Darryl chases after the dog, while the remainder of the group ascends the stairs for safety. Maggie is the last to climb the stairs. The walker takes her leg. She calls the book she needs assistance, but he throws her. She slips and she falls. Maggie is able to fight off the crowd by using a gun until she is unable to refill her ammunition, and the walkers attack her. While the remainder of the group makes their way inside the vehicle and discovers that the doors of the next vehicle are shut. As Negan walks down the stairs, the group inquires about Maggie's whereabouts, to which Negan responds that she was behind him. even though Gabriel appears to be agitated, but he decides to go on with the mission. After the dog, Daryl punches a hole in the wall and then climbs into the tunnel. The tunnel is filled with an abandoned camp within the Yucca community. Eugene as well as the princess talked about the disappearance of Zika Bo. The auditors later conduct an interview with Yumich. She says that she worked as an attorney for criminal defense prior to the apocalypse and is convinced that her brother is somewhere in the Commonwealth and is seeking her. She asks for an expedited processing time to her group. When she returns on the metro, she hears a loud sound and then a scream. He is chasing Daryl. He chases him. The dog leaps into the pipe, forcing Daryl to follow him. Daryl is able to crawl through the tube. The remainder of the group eventually gets the door open and proceed to the next vehicle. They suddenly hear a sound under their feet, which signifies sauce using Morse code. As they open the trap door, Maggie gets inside the car. Enraged, she slaps Negan for betraying him and explains to her friends what transpired. Negan is willing to admit his guilt. Alden claims Negan for trying to murder Maggie. However, Negan explains that he was just unable to rescue her while she was in danger. Agatha promises to kill Negan and assures Maggie that they'll traverse the city without Negan's help. Before anything else can happen, when they hear a scream for help from behind of the car, they come across Guy trapped in the final car and not able to unlock the door. He tells them that the two of them, Roy, were trapped in tunnels, but Gage did not shut the doors behind him after his entry into the car, which permitted walkers to get inside. Negan seeks assistance to open the door to allow Gage into the car. However, Maggie is against this as it will let walkers in the car. However, Alden tries to help Negan get the door open, but Duncan blocks him. Gage pleads with Maggie to save him, apologizes for his error and promising to pay it back. However, she insists they don't have ammunition to take out the walkers. Infuriated, Gage accuses her of lying and then cuts his chest to protect himself. The agony of being ripped apart by walkers when Frost and Duncan attempted to unlock the front door. Maggie is staring at the moving car long enough to be able to see Gage. Make yourself comfortable and join the group of hordes. Al discovers an incident that Gage did not deserve to die in the most horrifying way that could be imagined. In the meantime, Daryl finds a trail of blood within the tunnel. He also hears the sound of a dog barking. He soon comes across an injured Roy. He kindly asks for help, but then falls unconscious. After dispersing the walkers who chased him, Roy Daryl comes to his assistance. He is asked by Roy whether he was outside, and Roy acknowledges that it was a mistake. He also claims he lost the guy and the ammunition bag that the bag contained. Roy hands Daryl is his only weapon. Roy's one and only request for Daryl to inform his children that he wasn't killed. A coward, Frost and Duncan finally got through the door, but the door next is blocked. The force of walkers hitting the other door, as well as the Gage that is zombified, eventually results in opening the door. Gabriel is able to drive away the walkers using the help of a shotgun. Maggie offers Negan the gun to fight the group. While they're at it, Daryl sneaks up on the walkers from the front of the vehicle and begins to fight with them using Roy's gun. If the ammunition is exhausted and survivors are forced to use melee weapons. However, Daryl arrives at the door before it is locked and is able to unlock the door when everybody is in. Daryl puts a grenade into the mouth of an walker and then pushes him into the crowd before slamming the door shut and retreats to hide. In the aftermath of the blast, the remaining walkers are killed. Eugene gets taken into an area for further investigation with General Mercer. Eugene gets scared Mercer, who asks the location of his settlement and the reason he was on the railway station. Eugene exposes the truth, breaking down while putting the bag he carries on his head. Eugene is taken to the train car, where Eugene is delighted to be reunited with his buddies. He also inquires Zeki about where they took him. However, the latter responds that Eugene was transported to the hospital where he received cough syrup. The conversation gets interrupted. As Mercer arrives in the room, they are officially accepted into the Commonwealth. Mercer then knocks on the door 2 times, and when it is opened, an individual who introduces herself as Stephanie arrives. After taking Roy Maggie's team on the road, Negan obediently returns. Maggie, with her gun Agatha, is asked if they are ready to go on the road. However, Maggie tells her that they'll head into Wara Hills, where there is an underground storage facility for supplies that is arranged by Georgie. She is asking Negan whether he knows the location. He confirms that I am willing to guide them. When they arrive at the scene, the group is shocked at the scene of dead bodies scattered across the road. The group is driving with arrows at a rapid pace, and throwing knives are flying into the crowd and kill Roy and Cole in a brutal way earlier. While the group is running for protection, they notice a gang of Reapers coming towards them.